Congratulations on being a finalist for the Hall of Fame. What does that mean to you?
Well, and I'll be honest with you, when I got into coaching in the first place, it was high school coaching, and uh, I loved it, and I never thought it'd actually be in the NFL. And then one thing happened, and then after another, and I got in, and I did never aspired to get into Hall of Fame. I just loved what I did. And now, but I will say this right now, I'm excited. My family's excited. We know there's another step to it. So we're trying to temper everything. But uh, it would mean a lot, obviously, but not only to me, but to my coaching staff, the players, they all had a part of this. And so, but it's pretty cool.
If you would have told yourself when you started your coaching career that you would be in this spot, would you have believed yourself?
No, no, no. The story of my first high school job, we didn't win a game for 2 years. We were 0-22. And I said, well, I'm not sure I'm going to stay in this. And then the head coach talked me into staying one more year. We finally won a couple games, and then the rest it kind of happened. But no, I couldn't have thought about that.
What was that coach's name that got you to keep coaching football?
His name is Steve Ellison.
Okay.
Steve it was at Sacred Heart High School in San Francisco. And he was a friend of mine. I knew him earlier, and then he asked me to come and coach. Then he went on to Petaluma High School, and Petaluma is just north of San Francisco.
Yep.
And they named the stadium after him at the high school. So he did quite well. He stayed in high school coaching the whole time, and a good friend still.
So all you needed was that little nudge to keep going, and then it just really blossomed from there.
Yeah, just some encouragement.
And then Sterling Sharp's also a finalist. What do you remember about him? And then how much would you like to see him get in the Hall of Fame, especially when his career was cut short? I mean, he was on that trajectory for the Hall of Fame no matter what.
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I had the privilege of coaching perhaps the two best receivers in football, and that was Jerry Rice in San Francisco and Sterling Sharp. I've always said that, and I always felt he should have been in the Hall of Fame. I mean, he was that type of player. When I got to Green Bay, he was you might remember he was the star. He was what made everything tick there for a while for me, certainly. And it was just unfortunate that his career got cut short. But I moved him around, and he played quarterback sometimes. He was a running back. He he was that good. And after catching the ball, he could really run. He was strong, and so I couldn't be happy if this happens the way I hope it happens. It would be really something. I'm really pulling for him.
So you can imagine you guys hope getting some gold jackets together.
Well, you know what? Again, I would say let's keep the lid on this a little bit, but it would be really something, yeah, special.
Absolutely. And then, coming in the early 1990s to you, looking back on it, what did it mean? I mean, this was a great franchise until, the 80s, they had their bumps, and then you come in. I mean, what did it mean with Ron Wolf and Favre to really turn this franchise back into a winner? And it's been a winner basically ever since.
Well, it's first of all, the city itself is a great city with great people, and growing up in San Francisco like I did, you still knew you were a 49er fan as a kid, excuse me, but you still knew all the Packer players. You knew those people because they were famous. Vince Lombardi, you knew him. So I can remember going into the interview with Ron and walking into the old building there where they had the collage and pictures all in the lobby, and just gazing for a while, just looking at it and saying, "Wow, I'm here amongst all these people. How am I going to do this?" And so I made a decision early on that there's only one Coach Lombardi. I can't be another, but I'm going to work very, very hard to get this thing done. And I would say this, Mike, and you see it in the league all the time now. My relationship with Ron Wolf was the key. There wasn't an owner there. Bob Harlan was the president and really helped it any way he could. But Ron and I had to get along and had to work together, and we did. I mean, we didn't care who got the credit or all of that kind of stuff. And when you see organizations that aren't functioning, that's usually the fact that they're not getting along. And so I was fortunate to have Ron Wolf there. That's what I say. And then we got along so great. And then Favre came, and once he settled down a little bit,
I don't know if you, I don't know if you could
once
say.
he settled down a little bit, we were ready to take off.
That's kind of like what we're seeing with Gutekunst and LaFleur right now. How much do you think it helps, so the Packers don't have an owner and that a GM and a head coach know that they have time to build something instead of being always pressured to, hey, we got to win right now.
Yeah, I think it means a lot, But I will tell you this. I mean, we're talking about Green Bay now, but in Seattle, when I went to Seattle, we had an owner, Paul Allen, but he didn't interject himself into what we were doing. I think in the league right now, you see owners that do that, and that makes it harder sometimes. It really does. So the idea that Green Bay does not have an owner per se, but that the general manager and the coach can kind of meet together and row the boat in the same direction, that means everything. And I think that's one of the reasons they're successful.
And then outside of the Super Bowl win, do you have a favorite memory from being in Green Bay?
Oh, there were so many.
Yeah.
Outside of the Super Bowl win, I tell you one of the great memories I have is when, and it has nothing to do with football. It was when the snows would come, and I'm from California, so I wasn't used to that. Uh, all the guys on my block, and we live close to the stadium in the neighborhood. They get out their snow blowing machines there, and it was a party. They loved it. Snow going everywhere. Well, fortunately, the people at this facility, the guys that worked there, came over and did my driveway. I didn't have a snow blowing machine, so it allowed me to get to work. But there's so many things. Listen, the players, the people in the city, as I said. Um, Kathy my wife was a social worker at the time in the city, and how we saw all different parts of the city and the people in the city, and they cared deeply about their football team and the city itself, Green Bay. So I have a lot of memories that way.
Did you get a snowblower after that?
No, I that was too much work. No.
That's awesome because it's funny. When I first moved here, I didn't have a snowblower, and my next door neighbor snowblowed my driveway for me. So that's kind of funny. But for you, how tough was it to leave Green Bay?
Well, it was not easy. We had gone to two Super Bowls, and won one, and then didn't win the second one. But there's a part of me that I realized that in my DNA, that to take something that perhaps was broken and try and fix it. It was just, that's how I looked at things. And so in Green Bay, we came in there, and with Ron's help, certainly his leadership, we I think we fixed it. And then I had another opportunity to accept a new challenge that way. And it was not an easy decision. People ask me to this day, when I went back in and went in the Hall of Fame there, I had board members come up and goes, "Why you leave? I'm still mad at you. Why'd you leave?" And I said, it was the new challenge. I got to be coach and general manager in Seattle. And so that appealed to me. Um, but it wasn't easy. I love those guys, and I love the city, as I told you.
Absolutely. And then, what do you want your legacy to be? Say you're up on the podium here in a couple months. I mean, what do you want your legacy to be for just what you did in Green Bay?
Well, I think I want people to realize that I was a football coach, but I also was a teacher. I thought my high school background, and I always say then when I got into professional football, I taught big little kids, on how to do stuff. But I would hope that people say I'm more than a coach. I've got a great family. Kathy and I have been married 53 years. Um, I care about people, and I want to do what I can to help our community and all sorts of things like that. And then we are where we go to church, and all those things are really important. So I hope people would look at me not just as a football coach, but uh, it is quite an honor, and it would be really something.
And now the Packers and Seahawks, before you left for the Seahawks, didn't play too many times, but it kind of turned into a rivalry there from the time you took over and before the time you left. The Seahawks, that is. I mean, what was it like to see that go from, teams who didn't play each other much to it was some heated games.
Oh no, we had some big ones, and I remember the first time I came back. And I don't know if you remember the game, but it was a night game.
Monday
Uh,
Night Football, right?
yeah. And my kids had gone to college in Chicago. And I said they always came up to Green Bay whenever they could, if we were in there in Seattle, certainly. And I said, I don't think you should come. I don't know quite how the reception is going to be. I don't know how it's going to work. And I remember coming out of the locker room onto the field, and honestly, the fans, they couldn't have been more gracious. I mean, they were really the normal little teasing stuff, but generally speaking, it was quite a welcome back. And then we won the football game, and which was something, and then the games after that, there's a game we lost in the playoffs. It snowed. I had 3 inches of snow on the cap of on the bill of my cap, and Green Bay won. So we had a number of those games, and it was the beauty of the NFL is if you can create a rivalry like that, it's really good for everybody. It's good for both teams. It's good for the fans, and I think it's good for the league.
How much did it mean to you to have the fans respond the way they did in 1999 when you came back, and even though you whooped them 27-7, I think it was.
No, that was huge, but it just reinforced what I felt about the city and the people there. Now, the Packers mean a lot to those folks, but I couldn't tell you how much I appreciated that. And they said, and then I left saying, you know what, they did appreciate what we did when we were there.
And then let's go to the '04 game with the infamous Matt Hasselbeck. We're gonna get the ball. We're gonna score. What went through your mind when you heard him? Because I mean, that went through all Lambeau Field on the loudspeaker through the ref's mic, I think. I mean, what was going through your mind at that point?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I was busy trying to figure out, what we're going to do, and I missed that whole thing. I missed it, and I didn't find out about it until we got in the locker room, and someone said, "Did you hear what Hasselbeck said?" I said, "Oh, gee, no." But I I I appreciated his competitiveness, uh, and it was unfortunate to play. It was too bad what happened on the play, but that was a heck of a game too for both teams. And Matt was just being Matt, and the quarterback. You want your quarterback to feel confident and to feel good about attacking in that situation after the coin toss.
And then the '08 game as well. Did you know after that game, when you guys lost, I think it was 42-21 or whatever, that might be your last playoff game at the time? Or how was it weird that you walked off the field and that was, now looking back, that was your last playoff game as a head coach?
No, I didn't think. To be honest, I didn't think about that stuff when I'm in the moment. I was kind of trying to win the football game,
Right.
and we didn't play as well as I'd hoped we'd play. So then afterwards, when you kind of catch your breath and you get a night's sleep, and you kind of then decide what you're going to do, that's what happened. But during the game itself, and right after the game and things like that, that's the farthest thing from your mind. Well, at least was from my mind.
Right. And what's super weird was that was Favre's last playoff game as a Packer. So you guys both, that was the end of the playoffs for him with the Packers and you as a head coach. So I just thought that was really weird when I was looking that up. But let's talk about this week's game. What do you think about the Packers and the Seahawks this year?
Well, the Packers are really a really fine football team, I think, and they're in a really good division. Both Detroit and Minnesota have had great seasons so far. Uh, the Seattle team started out a certain way, then lost a few games with a brand new coach, good guy, smart guy, good defensive coordinator at Baltimore, and now they're kind of hitting their stride, and they had a really fine game last week against Arizona. So but that happens with a new coach where you're still trying to find your way. The players are trying to figure out who you are, and you're developing that type of relationship. So I think coming in, I think it's going to be a heck of a game. I think Green Bay is a really fine football team, and the Seahawks know what's at stake. because the division's really close, and the Rams have now accelerated now down the stretch here. So, but I always say this: having anybody coming in to play at Lumen Field in Seattle, it's hard. The noise is always hard. I think it always affects the opponent when they come in. And so I'm expecting a really hard-fought, close football game.
Yeah, the Packers have won there once since 2000 on, so it's been a whirlwind for them there. You coach quarterbacks, you coach some great ones, and you develop some great ones. What are your thoughts on the way Geno Smith has, he started out as the Jets starter his first couple years. He's a backup for 6, and now he's really taken the reins, and he's one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. I don't care where you rank him, but he's turned into a really good quarterback.
Yeah, he really has. And I had a chat with him. I've talked to him a few times over at the facility. And before they made him the starter, it was during the draft. I had sat down with him, just the two of us, just talked a little bit about, and I was really impressed with how he viewed things. And he had been in the league a while, but hadn't been the starter very long. But now he had his chance, and he really took advantage of it. And he's really a fine thrower. I mean, he's a great passer, and so and a good athlete. He can run. I'm happy for him. What it points out to me is that you get these young guys out of college who are talented, and if they happen to go to a place that's, I would say, quarterback friendly, the head coach or they know how to treat and know it's not going to happen right away. It's not going to happen right away. And then that quarterback is lucky, but all of a sudden he goes to some place, he gets thrust in there, and it's not working. And then all of a sudden he gets benched and things like that. His ability, that shouldn't have happened, but it happened. But now I think, shoot, he's really pretty good.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that with Sam Darnold as well. I mean, some guys just
Right.
take longer to develop. And then what are your thoughts on Jordan Love? I mean, he's really from the last 10 games last year, he was injured to start this year, but he's really coming on again. I mean, what are your thoughts on him and then the Packers kind of having 3 straight franchise quarterbacks?
Yeah, I mean, it's when you can do that, it's 25 years of good football. And not everybody gets to do that. We've seen it around the league, but I think I would love to have coached him, and I think what he did, I always said, if a quarterback, you draft someone with ability, and if you can, by your third year, not the first or second year, they're still learning. Everyone's still learning each other. You're learning the system. You're learning how to play in the league. But by the third year, you know kind of what you have for sure, and then you take off. And I think you've seen that. He sat and watched for a while. And then now I think I believe this is his third year of starting, isn't it? Or am I right on that?
Second year starting.
Second year. Second year starting. But he's really showing he's a gifted athlete. He's a really good player. And then now it's just a matter of kind of knowing when not to throw it, when to time, be smart with those types of things. And that comes with playing. And so I think the Packers now have another great quarterback that's going to be there for a long time. And if an organization can find that guy, and like they have, Aaron Rodgers came in and sat behind Brett for a while, then he played a long time. Then this happened. So they've figured it out, and they've done a good job of that.
I know you got 20 minutes, so this will be my last one. People say that Love is a little bit of a mix of Favre and Rodgers. Do you see that, or do you think he's his own quarterback?
Well, I think he's his own quarterback. I'll be honest with you. I have not seen him play enough to make an intelligent statement about him, other than the fact I think he's really talented. And what I've seen, he can make the throws, he can move, and he seems to be kind of a humble guy. And I appreciate that in him too. But no, I think really, I think he's going to be good for a long time.
What are you doing for the game?
Well, I'm not going to go to the game. I'm going to watch it with my family and we're going to see what happens. I always get asked, which team are you rooting for? And I said, I like both teams. We'll see. I want to see a good game and no one getting hurt.